Welcome to John Dixon and Associates Weekly Podcast. My name is Drew Dixon, sitting here with Scott Pinson. We're in December now, just got done with our November multi-seller auction. Had some great properties in it. Had one property, some of these properties we had offers before the sale. Scott had one it was part of an estate and had some good offers before the sale. However, they didn't accept them because they had to prove to the courts that it, true market value, and there's no better way than an auction. Some people just cannot sell before the auction. However, we've had several that have in the past.
Well, and I think that first of all, it's good to have you with us today, and we are going to have a trivia question later on in the podcast. That's right. So really what we're doing here is we're selling real estate. So we use auction as a tool. We're really laser focused on our sellers. And what we're trying to do is get properties sold for our sellers. Sometimes people will ask us if they can make an offer before the auction. The answer is that we're going to take that to the seller, and if the seller accepts an offer before the auction, then it's sold, it's gone. The inverse of that is that sometimes there may be a property that didn't meet the reserve at the auction, and sometimes we'll take that to some of our investors and developers and see if they want to pick it up after the auction. And so we've had success doing that too. So we could sell before or after the auction, but really our focus is to sell things at the auction. We use auction as a tool to get properties gone. It kind of brings up the question, what if someone calls me and says, can they wait and see if something doesn't sell at the auction and maybe I can make an offer afterwards? I wouldn't recommend that.
No, the best deal is going to be at the auction.
That's right.
The auction terms go away after that set auction. The price can change. The terms could change. Closing time can change. All the auction terms go away after the set auction. And typically the price goes up than what they would have taken at the auction.
That's right. That's right. And Drew always says it at the auction when he's calling the auction. But, we represent the seller. Now, we try to tell and disclose everything we know to the buyers, but we represent the seller. So if the seller, directs us to try to get the best price before the auction or to sell it after the auction, we're going to represent the seller and do what they want us to do.
That's right. And, we're licensed real estate agents and associate brokers for some. And, we have to submit any offer that comes to us in writing to that seller. And, on occasion, they do accept it. Now, these sellers also have put up money for advertising. And, unless it's a real good offer, they're going to let it go to auction because they've already paid fees for the advertising. And, like with some sellers, they have to show that it brings fair market value in some circumstances. And the only way to do that is to put it out for live bidding and then have a record of it.
That's an interesting point. So especially a lot of times with banks, when we work with banks, they report to a board and they have to show that it brought true market value. And so we've seen where banks will turn down a very strong offer before the auction because they have to take it to the auction and the auction provides them cover. And so is it unusual for a bank to sell a property even below what the offer was before the auction? Occasionally that'll happen, but they don't mind that because we open it up to active live bidding. We do good marketing. And so they can go back to their board and say, this is what it was worth. This is what it sold at auction. And they can justify that price. So that's kind of an interesting scenario that happens with banks and other investors too.
That's right. And kind of along that line, a lot of people say, well, is the property going to sell? It doesn't say absolute buy it. Should I even waste my time in coming to the auction? Absolute properties, we tell people, if it's selling absolute, it's going to bring everyone and their brother out. They know it's going to sell at that time, and 99% of the time it's going to bring more than if it was sold with reserve. And we've sold the same property, not in the same auction, of course, but in two different auctions, and they'll sell it with reserve. It'll bring a price, and then they just say, look, let's do it absolute, and it'll bring significantly more because the people know they're not wasting their time.
I love it when sellers have several properties and they'll sell some absolute and some reserve. And almost every time, the property that they're offering absolute will bring more money than the ones with the reserve price.
Now, some people just cannot sell things at absolute auction. For instance, they have a board that has to meet and discuss what it's brought before they'll can confirm it. There's some banks that just cannot sell absolute because that's in their bylaws. This attorney that was representing an estate, it had to be sold at auction and could not sell absolute, but confirmed it well before the price we had discussed that they wanted.
Well, and people that have never done auctions before, let's say they have a property valued at $100,000, and they say, well, if you sell it absolute, what do we do if it brings $5? So we get that call a lot. That's someone who hasn't been associated with auctions before, someone who's pretty savvy and has done a lot of auctions with us. They know that that's not the case. It just doesn't happen. Things are going to bring at auction market value. Now, people may be disappointed with what the market value is, but that's what it's going to bring, what it's worth that day.
And I tell people, if it's going to cause you sleepless nights, then don't sell it absolute. It's not worth staying up at night thinking, if everything's riding on this, I can understand. But just from experience of my, I guess, about 40 years of doing this.
You're not that old, are you?
Barely.
Whew.
Well, I started when I was 2.
Wow.
But, I've seen all types of auctions, and the absolute, when that word absolute goes by, you've got everyone that knows what auctions are and knows what that means. They're going to show up and they're going to bid, because they know if they, tomorrow's too late.
We'll also think whether something is selling absolute or reserve, in your 40 years, you know this, that if we've got a property coming to auction, those people want to sell it. So typically, by the time properties get to auction, they've probably tried to list it, they've tried to sell it or offer it in other ways. And so by the time it gets to auction, the sellers want to sell it. That's pretty clear.
That's right. That's right. And the way I get at that 40, Scott, is I grew up in it. My dad started in 76. I've been dragged along.
Okay, right.
So I didn't start right at that.
Right.
No, I had to go ahead and get out of diapers before I was taken to the auction.
Right.
But that's where I get that.
That's the way it goes. Sure.
What else, Scott?
Well, we had an auction last week. It was a good auction.
Right.
We're planning our next multi-seller auction. Multi-seller just means we combine all the properties together into one auction and sell them. The people that come to the auctions, they don't know who all the different buyers are, but that's what we do. We combine them into one auction. That's probably going to be around the end of January. We're still putting it together now. So if you have any properties that you'd like to include, or if you just want to discuss it with us, give us a call and we'll give you our best idea of what we think your property will bring at auction. We're going to be pretty conservative. We've talked about that before. Right. But we are accepting properties now for our next auction. You can call us at 770-425-1141. Ask for Scott or Drew, and we'll give you an idea of what we think it'll bring at auction. Also, we tell a lot of people this too, but we take a real boots on the ground approach. It's pretty fair to say, Drew, that someone in our company is going to physically take a look at every single property we offer at auction. So that's the type of customer service that we provide to both our sellers and our buyers, and just a real boots on the ground approach. We're gonna tell you everything we know about the property, but that's how we do things.
That's right. And one thing we didn't mention, one of the properties that did not sell in November was something in Costa Rica we had offered. It was a large package. You know, it's appraised for $3 million. It's got 4 different sections in it of condominium sites, for 3 of them, I believe, and then one area of it with home sites, place for a hotel. Well, we sold it all as one. You had to buy everything. And since the auction, discussing with the seller, he's now willing to sell off portions of that.
Yeah, and so we had people come to the auction that were interested in that property. We had people online that were interested. It did not meet the reserve price for the overall project. The sellers have come to us. They've let us know we want this sold. And so now we're going to offer it again in an upcoming auction. And we're going to break up those pieces. That brings more people to the table that can actually bid on this property. And so be on the lookout for that in the future. But just know that we're flexible. We're going to be flexible about how we offer items. And we're trying to bring the most money we can for our sellers, but we also want it sold for them. And so we're going to be flexible in how we offer that to the public at auction.
And I'll go ahead and tell you, the sellers are entertaining selling a portion before we even offer it again at auction.
That's right.
They've got some home sites. There were several people indicating they just wanted a couple home sites. They couldn't, they weren't set in the position to buy the overall package. They aren't developers, not in the building condos. They wanted some of these little home sites. So
they wanted to build a home with an ocean view. Who wouldn't?
That's
who wouldn't
right.
Want that? Yeah.
That's right. And so the seller's entertaining offers on some of those now. And whatever's left, we're going to blow out at auction. So if you have any interest in beautiful Costa Rica, let us know. Reach out to us, and we can make that happen. How about a trivia question?
Okay, so it's Christmas time. We're in the first week of December now when we're doing this podcast, and so there's a famous Christmas movie, Home Alone. I don't know if have you seen that?
I've heard of it.
So in the movie Home Alone, they left their son, I think his name's Kevin, wasn't it? They left Kevin at home by accident. My trivia question is, where was the family traveling to? When they left Kevin at home by accident, where were they catching a flight to go to? So if you know or think you know or just want to guess, send me an email at scott@johndixon.com. We'll send you out a John Dixon Associates limited edition coffee mug. Include your contact information on the email, and we'll, if you're correct, we'll send it out to you. Now, employees and former employees are not eligible to win, nor are their families.
That's right.
So I'm getting some emails from some family members of employees and former employees, and so they're not eligible.
That's right, and I think some are trying to make up different email accounts.
I think they are.
Pull it by us, but no, we don't play that game.
So let us know if you know the answer to the trivia question.
All right. Thank you for joining us this week. Hope you're having some great holidays, getting ready for Christmas, and we'll be back with you next week for another edition of John Dixon and Associates Roundtable.